All right, gentlemen, good morning. Thanks a lot for being on here. Blue Star Apex Webinar 005. We've got Coach Cannella from UMass here, Coach Gabrielli from Providence College, and Coach Andy Shay from Yale University. Super humble and honored to have you guys on here. Great to see you, and great to get your perspectives on this thing. I'll let you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves, starting with Coach Cannella.
Morning, all. Morning, MV. My name is Greg Cannella. I'm the head lacrosse coach at Umass. I think my origins started in Limerick, New York, on Long Island. Played for two Hall of Fame coaches, and Tony Seaman and Larry Glenz. From there, I was able to go to the University of Maryland, play for Dick Adele, another Hall of Famer, then back to Nassau Community College for Rich Speckman, another Hall of Famer, and up to UMass with Dick Garber, another Hall of Famer, and started my coaching career at the University at Stony Brook with John Espy, another Hall of Famer, and worked with Ted Garber as an assistant for 2 years at UMass, and just finished year 26 at UMass.
Thanks, Coach. Coach Shay?
Yeah, MV, thanks for having me on. Name is Andy Shay, obviously. Coach at Yale University. I'm from upstate New York, Cortland, New York. Played at Lemoyne College. My coaching journey, coached at Potsdam State for a couple months, then got a head coaching job at a junior college, SUNY Morrisville. From there, I went to MV's alma mater, University of Delaware. Spent 4 years learning a great deal from Bob Schillinglaw, and then was lucky enough to get an assistant spot at UMass under Greg for another 4 years. And then from there, I got the head job at Yale, and I've been there for, I guess, 17 years now.
Thanks, Coach Shay. Coach Gabrielli?
Hey, MV and the guys, thanks for having me. I'm Chris Gabrielli, born and raised in Farmingdale, New York. Played for two huge mentors of mine, Bob Hartraft and Buddy Krummenacher. Definitely influenced me in a lot of ways. I went to UMass, played for Greg Cannella, a former Daler. Jim Strube was his assistant at the time. And then, ironically, Andy Shay joined Coach Cannella's staff during my time at UMass for my junior and senior year. I worked for the Boston Cannons for 1 year out of college, and then had the opportunity to come back and work with Coach Cannella and Coach Shay. And I stayed at UMass for 3 years, and obviously learned a ton from those guys. Then I went off to Butler for 1 year before I had the chance to go to Duke, where I was there for 6 years, before getting the head coaching position at Providence College, where I just finished my 8th season, abbreviated season, but.
Thank you very much, coaches. The connections are honored and definitely respected. Section 1 of this thing has been really helpful to our families and parents and our student athletes, hearing your perspectives on things in general, things that are going on within, your programs at your schools and your locker rooms, your team dynamics, in your personal lives. The perspectives are key. And in times like this where we're showing kind of courageous vigilance and trying to understand what that balance is between leadership, sensitivity, empathy, all that stuff, it really does help hearing the perspectives of other men and other people in general that are in positions of leadership and responsibility. So really appreciate you sharing your perspectives. If we could start with you, Coach Cannella, you have the floor, sir.
Yeah, first off, MV, you mentioned leadership and having an opportunity to coach with Andy and Chris um, I have full knowledge that those guys are super leaders, not only of the guys that they coach, but within their universities. I can't say enough about those guys. And there's a lot of great leaders out there as coaches, yourself included on that. A lot of people need to look to those leaders. They will continue to look to those leaders throughout this situation. And hopefully we can all stay strong as leaders and continue to put forth the efforts that we do day in and day out. My general perspective, the first thing I think of is the people in healthcare, the nurses, the doctors who are working so hard to help other people. And again, as coaches, we kind of serve the same purpose to help others. I think first and foremost, it would be my family, my extended family and friends. Try to support all those folks, make sure everybody's well and safe. Then it goes down to our team members. Obviously, as coaches, we've all been in touch with those guys pretty consistently throughout. But making sure that they are not only physically safe and well, but also mentally. I think a lot of this has to do with the change of the schedule that they have every day in terms of academics and athletics has obviously gone away. So just making sure that they are staying up with everything that are within their responsibilities that they can control. And then the last would be for everyone's themselves, right? Trying to be smart, taking care of your mental and physical welfare and your well-being, and trying to do your best to continue what you do every day. Let's get up and work, right? If you work out, go out and work out, go back to work, do something with your family. And I think hopefully in time we can all get through with this with the support of each other.
Thanks, Coach. Wise words, much appreciated. Coach Shay, you want to pick up from there, please?
Yeah, sure. I think like to echo a lot of things Greg's saying with respect to, just really appreciating what people are doing on the front lines of this. I have a couple of doctor friends, and down in where we are in Connecticut, it's getting closer to us and getting a little more unmanageable. So it's pretty scary, some of the things that they're saying. So like I said, I think we all hope we can get through this. And people keep saying the new normal. I don't know if we know what the new normal is. The new normal today is different than the new normal yesterday. So I think, once again, to echo Coach's sentiments, we just have to be ready to be able to lead and follow at the same time. It's very interesting. People keep comparing it to 9/11, and it's you read a lot about that. It is very similar. At the same time, the strange thing about this is there's in the wake of this, there's no affection. You don't see anybody. You don't get to hug anybody anymore, and it makes that it's an impediment on that quite a bit. At the same time, I think all of us can, I think, realize that we're not as connected to some of the people in our lives as we need to be. Some people that we've lost touch with, and I guess it's a text message or if or maybe a phone call to reconnect with a college friend and see how they're doing. And as of last night, I'm starting to get closer than 1 degree of separation from someone who's on life support, and that's really scary because we're just in the start of this thing, and that's going to be what a lot of people are going to go through. So like Coach said, we got to remain strong. We got to support and help each other as best we can. it's going to be a lot like athletics, man. It's going to be day to day, and you just got to try and take the challenge that's in front of you head on and do your best with it. So in our house, my wife is homeschooling my kids like crazy. She doesn't let me do it because I don't know what I teach them. I can't teach them how to like make a fire or something like that. That's about all I can do. So she's the alpha in that situation, and she's doing a phenomenal job. And for us in our home, we're safe and as of right now, so that's a good thing. And the other parts of our family, everyone seems to be doing okay. And for now, we just got to, like I said, go day to day and deal with it as it comes.
Thanks, Coach. Coach Gabrielli, you have the floor, sir.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, MB. Often in crisis with my team, I would be calling these two guys for advice on what to do. So I don't think you're going to hear a heck of a lot different, from me. But my perspective, is, you go through a whole litany of emotions, during this thing. Probably selfish ones initially, when they cancel your season, and when any season ends, I think it's for those of us that put so much into it, it's a little bit of a grieving process, for sure. And to be ended so abruptly, and you see all the anguish that your team is feeling, especially your seniors, and you even feel self-pity because you put so much into it, and you kind of got through the grind portion of it, and it's starting to get fun, and it's taken away. But then, as time goes on and you realize the magnitude of this thing, you start to get perspective. I think these guys said it, perfectly. My sister is a nurse, and, she's has 3 little ones at home, and one of them's on has respiratory issues. So she literally had to move out of the house. She can't even, come home to her kids. She went to live with my parents because she's exposed to the coronavirus. Last night I hear about one of our players, dad's tested positive, and then, gosh, I'm spending all day with my girls. It's not that bad. You kind of put it into perspective a little bit. So with our team, we're trying to keep them, like these guys mentioned, busy. It's hard to communicate with 45 guys. These Zoom meetings are terrific, but, we try to break them into smaller groups, by class. I created a leadership council, which 2 or 3 guys from each class, and we talk about different things, and with that group, we just tried to come up with, hey, what are our goals? Our goals are, number one, to help the coaches and our teammates cope with this thing, first and foremost. Let's make sure we're doing some things to make sure we're checking in on the mental health of one another, staying physically active, having our sticks in our hands, having some semblance of a standard of behavior, I think, is important when it comes to alcohol and drugs and, being active. The guys came up with like a buddy system to check in with one another, with the mental health piece, doing some competitions fitness wise. I couldn't imagine if this happened to us when I was in college, because we didn't have the technology that these guys do now. These guys are telling me about applications that they use, like GroupMe and, TikTok and Instagram and, obviously Zoom, where they are doing a good job staying connected with one another. I made the point to the boys that, most of the team building that occurs, on a team happens when the coaches aren't around. That's in the dorms, that's in the cafeteria, that's on a Saturday night. So while we're going to try to do some things to keep the boys connected and continue our team building and check in on one another, they got to take responsibility, and do that on their own, as well. just as they would if we were here right now. And, we just try to empower leadership, knowing that, I'm not smart enough or strong enough as a leader to do it myself with 45 plus people. So these guys have to continue to be great leaders. And, that's even our current seniors, but certainly all of our returners as they move up, 1 year in age and experience. I think it's a great opportunity for them to, lead right now because we need it.
Thanks, coaches. Wise words. Throw a little Churchill in here. It's the quote is that it's not enough to do our best. Sometimes we must do what is required. I think that definitely hits home now. We need to do what we're required to do. And Coach Gabrielli, you brought up a good point about the grieving process with the end of a season, and and Coach Shay brought up the process of dealing with the emotion, kind of the 9/11 aspect. And Coach Cannella mentioned it too, the mental and emotional part where, everybody's process is different. And, my grandfather hammered home to me personally that, you can't judge it. I mean, it's like a fingerprint. Everybody's going to deal with it differently. I mean, you can help, you can be a leader, you can call out certain parameters of behavior, but, it certainly is a time where, it requires leadership to be empathetic and understanding of what guys are going through and what families are going through, and riding that line of courage and, balancing courage and sensitivity. So taking that to the second part of this, which is specific, advice that has helped families and student athletes so much from watching these things. A lot of issues have, been brought up, and it's not just the physical, and Coach Gabrielli just touched on, that there is no physical without the mental and emotional. So the mental and emotional part is obviously the most important, and can be trained. But, to move into the specific section of this thing, really looking forward to your perspectives on, what that looks like, from your advice with the incredible amount of experience and very respected perspectives that you guys have. Coach Cannella, if you could lead us off on the advice segment, that'd be great.
Yeah, I think Chris covered the part about what your responsibilities are. And if you have academic, you have athletic responsibilities, you have family responsibilities, there's no need to change that now. And you have to fulfill those responsibilities to the best of your ability, continue to do so throughout here. And for the most part, people give great effort to what's important to them. So if you're that type of person, then you can't hedge on that at this point. My message would also be to make sure everybody stays safe, to be smart, to listen to local officials, state officials, right? The people that are advising all of us, to help the spread here. I think, at times when the guys are with us, especially our players, their allegiance is really to us and to the university. It's still to their parents and the people at home. But now that they're away from us, I think that allegiance switches over more to their family, their parents, and they need to make sure that they're listening to their parents, right? And being smart about that and just being a part of that conversation. If they're high school age kids, they're old enough. Obviously, if they're college kids, they're more than old enough to be a part of that at home. And then the other thing I'll say is, just don't change who you are, right? If the circumstances have now changed, and but who you are hasn't changed. So you need to continue on that path. If you're a very hard worker, you need to continue to work very hard, right? If you're a very motivated person in terms of your workouts, your academics, you need to continue to do that. You know, and for our guys, my message to our guys is, hey, continue to live by the UMass way, right? And what are, you know, who are we? What are we? Who do we want to be in our everyday life? But also to continue to move forward with our core values.
It's a great quote, Coach Cannella. People give great effort to what's important to them. Wrote that one down. Coach Gabrielli, you have the floor, sir.
Sure. You know, I think Coach Cannella hit on so many great points there. You know, I think one of the biggest challenges for, you know, guys that are, or women that are, you know, Division I athletes and Division I coaches, you know, certainly a type A personality where you're very active, and, you know, you like to fill your day with a lot of things. You know, what my biggest struggle with, and you know, I'm very open with our guys about it, is, you know, we had a very scripted day, you know, from like 8 a.m. till you walk in the door at, you know, 6:30 p.m. for dinner, you know, and now it's, you know, these are very long days. These are very long days. The simple things, just being in your car by yourself for a little while in the morning to kind of collect your thoughts. You know, I just think, you know, I like to be very transparent and vulnerable with my guys and talk to them about, you know, how I'm struggling with this, and, you know, what am I trying to do to figure it out and cope with it in a healthy way. But then also not feel guilty, you know, about, you know, not being perfect at this thing, because I think that's a big one. You know, again, for people that are so used to having a scripted day and a busy day, you know, for me, and I tell this to our guys, you know, you get this sense of guilt, like, I didn't do enough today. I didn't do much today. And you know, I just been kind of following some, you know, that guilt kind of lends to anxiety, you know, so like our guys need to recognize that there's no script for this. You know, you got to kind of do the best you can. But just be, like Coach said, try to be consistent, you know, with your behaviors. That's how you're going to be most comfortable. But also be okay with the fact that, you know, it's not going to be the same. Nothing is the same right now. You know, nothing is the same. So with that being said, I've even asked our guys to consider trying different things, you know, to try to help themselves. Some people have tried to, you know, expose me to, like, you know, things like meditation, you know, which I've kind of dabbled with, believe it or not. These guys will probably laugh thinking that I would actually try that, you know, having coached me. But, you know, things like, you know, using technology. There's this Headspace app. We've done Zooms where we've actually started out with like a 3-minute meditation just to get the guys to like learn how to do it, practice it. And just be open, you know, to trying things, because like I said, it's a long day. It's a long day for guys like us, you know, so you got to try to figure out what to do. You can only work out so much in a day. You can only, you know, watch film or whatever so much in a day. You know, so you gotta be open to new stuff. I did TikTok with my girls for the first time yesterday, trying to like fill my day just a little bit, because I'm going a little nuts. So, but I think, you know, the guys can, you know, myself and the guys, you know, you can spend a little bit more time with your parents. You can spend a little bit more time with your kids. You know, these might be times we look back on one day, like, man, remember that year in 2020? What a rough year that was. But I got to spend so much time with my mom and dad. I got to spend so much time with my kids. You know, so try to find the positives as well.
Awesome. Great advice, Coach Gabs. Coach Shay, looking forward to your perspective, sir.
What do I do if they both took what I was going to say?
I think you'll adapt.
Okay. You know, it's really an echo. And the first thing that I did with my team, well, first thing I did personally was I've scheduled out programming for them that will hopefully take me into the middle of the summer. Different things that they can do, books they can read, book synopses they can read, documentaries they can watch, short videos they can watch, all that stuff. And what I've tried to do is I'm going to trickle feed it to them because they're going to need stuff to do as well. The first thing that I expose to them is something that we talk about with them all the time. I shouldn't say all the time, but you know, on a yearly basis, we talk about their 168, which is your 168 is the number of hours that are in a week. And we try and explain to our guys that if you map out your 168, you know, during a school year, that you'll be able to get everything done that you need to get done, and you'll be productive. And you know, it's a never-ending battle, and it's something that I fail at every week, but I try and do it. So they're going to need to, you know, fill their day, and you know, you're going to be filling it with things you don't want to do, but at the same time, you're going to be able to get things done, feel productive if you map it out. So that's really the first thing that we've kind of talked about. You know, personally, you know, like Gab says, this is you're spending a lot more time with your family if that's who you're with. And we, you know, the Shay household has had more family dinners in this month than we had in the 13 years my son has been alive. I feel like it's been really, really awesome. It reminds me of you know, a month-long snow day where you're around each other the whole time. So you know, there's certain positives to this that, you know, hopefully in once we're all out of this, that we have perspective and say, okay, that you know, the time, you know, the spring of 2020 is something that we can look back on and say, okay, we grew in a certain sense. You know, the interesting thing about this to me is the fact that, you know, our generation compared to other generations really hasn't had adversity. You know, and I think, knowing you guys as well as I do, I think you guys would agree that we are growing softer as a culture, and every generation softer than the one before, and you know, this is what we're saddled with. You know, we got to deal with, and hopefully we as a society can get tougher and be better for it. You know, I think I was reading an article the other day that the author was talking about how his mother never, the scars of the Great Depression never healed, that she kept food in her pantry, you know, well into her 90s because she was just terrified that it would happen again. So, you know, like I said, hopefully we're better for it when we come out of the other side of this, and this is our generation's adversity that we're going to have to deal with. And maybe we'll be telling our grandkids that we got better as a result of this. That's my hope.
Thanks, Coach. Much appreciated. Quote you and say we're going to be able to look back and say we grew. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Your perspectives and you know, input and advice is much honored, and we're all humbled by it and very appreciative of it and grateful for sure. You know, thanks for the leadership that you show and the genuine people that you are. It's reassuring to get on here and talk to you guys, you know, hear your opinions and perspective, and kind of hammers home the fundamentals of, you know, being good people and creating victory in your dynamic especially. But as people, you guys are definitely inspiring guys, and your opinions are much appreciated. So, gentlemen, thank you very much. We'll look forward to talking to you very soon. Thanks for being on here.
Thank you, MV.
Keep MB.
Hey, thanks for having me. See you guys.
See you, boys.